What pickup line actually worked? Story 1. I met my wife in college during one of those freshmen come a week early to get used to campus living kind of thing. I saw her in a public place and approached her and her friend who were chatting. I introduced myself and started laying on the charm. Now, something about me is, I'm 6 feet 4 inches and at the time 290, and it wasn't all muscle, a lot of it was. But I liked my pastas and ice cream. Anywho, I was saying things like, hey, I'm Tusters, I'm new here. Are you new here? What's your major? Etc., etc. And after a little back and forth, I realized that I made a good impression, but I had other plans for that evening, so I needed to get going. I proceeded to then say one of the smoothest / potentially cringiest lines in my life. I was like, here, let me write down my phone number. So it's not the weird guy asking for your number. Just make sure you throw it away when I'm not looking anymore. Because if you do, I'm gonna have to cut myself. 3 seconds pause, a slice of cake, because I'm fat. And that's how I deal with rejection. Her eyes lighting up and hearing her laugh at that really installed some confidence in me that day. I didn't see her for a few days, but when I did, I saw her, asked her if she remembered me, she smiled, laughed, and said, how could I not? And the rest was history. Story 2. Once upon a time, my landlord / roommate dragged me out to a bar. I don't like bars. I wanted to stay home and play video games. He opened a tab and told the bartender my drinks were on him, so I decided to get wasted. But I was an inexperienced drinker and didn't know what to order, so I just ordered whatever he was drinking, which turned out to be orange juice and vodka. So, I'm sitting at the bar with my face in my drinks, not paying any attention to the world around me, when the cutest girl in the bar sits next to me and says, can you believe he said that? I asked who, and she pointed at my landlord / roommate. I replied, I believe he said just about anything. What was it this time? She said he asked if she was gay or just artsy. I replied, well, now I've got to know. After you picked your panties back up, what did you tell him? Then she invited me back to her literal castle, where the multitudes of orange juice and vodka decided to wreck my bowels. I never saw her again. Story 3. This one did not, but I'd be damned if it wasn't the most funny one I've said. I don't approach people ever, never have, never will. So technically this is one of a very few times I actually got to use one. Girl comes up to me. I was recently divorced in my late 20s and in pure catch-up mode. Again, I have never really had much for game or pickups because literally every person I've ever met in that type of situation was completely organic and they approached me first, or it was a setup from a mutual position. She starts dancing on me with heavy grinding, and despite my best try and honestly just not trying to be creepy, I start to get aroused. I'm actively trying to back off a bit because I'm not that guy and not trying to be that guy either. She turns to me and says, oh my God, you're so hot. And you can really dance. It sucks you're gay. I actually don't know to this day if she thought me backing off was a sign of my sexuality, which it wasn't. Just a sign of this is personally embarrassing. First thing that comes to my mind is to point to my penis, which is not erect, but also not in its normal state, let's call as chub, and say, does that look gay to you? This was in a very crowded room amongst mostly friends, all dancing, and said loud enough to be heard over loud music. One of my best friends is close enough to me to overhear and just dies laughing. Then she did. And so did I. Story 4. I was on a road trip through California with a buddy of mine a few years back. When we reached San Diego, the first thing we did was checking into our hotel. Just as I got out of the car, I met a group of girls who did bachelorette dares. One of the bridesmaids approached me and asked if I had a condom. I reacted surprisingly witty and responded, sure I do, but shouldn't we at least have a drink first or something? She looked at me with her eyes wide open, blushed a little, started to laugh and rushed back to her girls, asking, oh my God, did you hear what that guy over there said? Pointing at me. Turns out there was a party on the hotel's rooftop terrace that night and the girls were staying there as well. A few of them were also attending the party. So I took my chances, approached her and said, so, how about that drink now? We then proceeded to have a few cocktails at the bar and the rest is history. God, I love San Diego. Story 5. In my junior year of high school, I was stoned out of my mind at a party and decided I would start spitting game to this girl who was a senior, despite never being enticed by her before. Well, being stoned out of my mind, I decided I didn't really care if she shot me down in front of people or not. So I start flirting and making sexual innuendo jokes in front of about 20 other people. She's laughing but clearly embarrassed a little and not really sure about me, because neither was I about her until 5 minutes before this started. But at one point I said something that made her laugh and blush a little, and she jokingly said, "Man, I f***ing hate you." And with a confidence I've never felt since I shot back, "You might f***ing hate me, but baby, I promise you ain't gonna hate f***ing me." This was immediately followed by the whole room erupting into laughter and howls of praise from the other guys, and then someone yelled out her name, "You better give that man some p***." A few minutes later everyone went outside but her and I. I told her I had to take a leak, and knowing the house well I decided to go into the master bathroom. Friend's mom was at the bar, because it was bigger and I'm broad-shouldered. I came out of the bathroom and rounded the corner and was met by the sound of her locking the door, grabbing my shoulders, latching her legs around me, locking eyes with me, and then saying, "Prove it." Story 6. A pickup line that actually worked on me needs just a little background. I worked at a bar during the NBA Finals. I don't follow basketball at all, but I knew Golden State Warriors were playing by the simple fact that I look a lot like Steph Curry. So much so that almost every table would say something. Anyway, onto the line. I was outside and a cute woman asked, "Has anyone ever said you look like Steph Curry?" Obviously, I said I get it all the time. Then she goes on to say, "Has anyone ever said they want to sit on your face because you look like him?" "No, just me," and walked the away to her table. Needless to say, my jaw was on the floor. Story 7. My pickup line game was notorious amongst my friends at the end of college. I was newly single and depressed and just didn't care what impression I made for the most part. The one that worked best was, "I think you're cute and would love to grab drinks this week. Can I have your number?" Outside of that, we got creative, usually at the bars near the school. "Are you from Africa? Because you're a frickin' babe." Got a laugh and wound up setting her up with my buddy for a date. "You should sit on my face and let me eat my way to your heart." I was super drunk and hitting on an older woman at a concert. Worked like a charm. "Are we just going to stand here all night and pretend like we haven't been eye-f***ing each other the whole time?" Also said while super drunk, resulted in a date and nothing else. "What's your favorite breakfast place in town? Want to go tomorrow morning for mimosas? What's your favorite Disney movie?" I found that telling them they're wrong no matter what they say, and then saying random movie is better almost always resulted in them saying, "Let's go watch this, and I'll show you why it is better." Do pick good movies though, like Mulan, Moana, Lilo and Stick, Aladdin. Don't name some obscure BS like Chicken Little. You want the girl to be interested in watching a movie with you. Note, I'm a remarkably average guy. Turns out that women tend to like when you are confident and direct. Who knew? Certainly not me. Story 8. When I was about 16, I was at a con. So I was outside and then I see a girl, we'll call her Anna, that I was friends with only on Facebook, swiping likes and shit but never talked. So I went next to her, thinking how I can start a conversation, and the only thing that came in my mind was going for a handshake and asking, "Sorry, aren't you Anna on Facebook?" She was shy but started talking with me for about 5 minutes, then she left. Next day I receive a message on Facebook from her. "So it was you? Sorry, I didn't remember your face very well. I was blind as a bat." We started talking, been friends for about 6 months. At one point she invited me to her birthday party. So I said yes, but I brought my best friend with me. We will call him Mike. We went to a pub, a 10-person group, got drunk, me and Anna hook up and Anna meets Mike. I dated Anna for about 3 months, long-distance relationship. After that, we broke up. This is where it goes weird. My friend Mike started talking with her 6 months after we broke up. We were going to a metal festival in her town, so naturally they wanted to meet. I talked with him, and we came up with a plan. We stayed in a rented apartment. I said, "Dude, I leave to get lunch with somebody. You invite her over and see what happens." I left at 12, came back at about 3. He didn't open the door until 4 because he still had some business. 3 years from then, they are still dating and planning to move together.